This e-souvenir is the collection of various abstracts given by all the delegates and the participants that they are participating in this international webinar. All the participants who have registered will get a copy of this e-souvenir and the e-certificate on their emails after successful completion of this webinar. Now I'll go through the briefly with the theme of this seminar. Outbreak of COVID-19 has brought our lives standstill and has adversely every aspect of our livelihood. Lockdown has disrupted full-time academic activities. Teaching and learning of the teachers and the students has been brought to uncertainty. To restore normalcy amidst uncertainty of lockdown, a search for alternatives to regular teaching learning began in academics. Teachers are using various e-learning platforms to communicate with their students. The students are also trying to cope up with the unprecedented situation, and they are trying to respond to their teacher's call. Academic exchange, which happens in the same physical space, actually leads to the holistic development of both the teacher and the taught. It is not possible in this present scenario when social distancing is the only remedy to avoid this disease. The process of online teaching cannot be a substitute to the regular academic activities, but e-learning is the only technique left with us. The other techniques are of no use nowadays. E-learning has several advantages as it can save money and time. Still, the need of the hour is to address major concern of uninterrupted and efficient use of internet. Some of the major concerns are expertise of the teachers to use the plenty of opportunities created by e-learning effectively, receptivity and adaptability of the learners having diverse abilities, holistic development of the learners, inclusiveness of the education process. Therefore, this webinar aims at discussing adoption and adaptation of e-learning methods, effective methods of teaching and learning during this critical time period, use of e-learning platforms in effective mentoring, and developing a new model of teaching learning not only during this lockdown but also after it. In order to do so, we have divided the webinar into two parts. First one is the inaugural session and the second one is the valedictory session. Inaugural session has 3 speakers, while the valedictory session has 1 speaker to deal with these objectives. Our first speaker is Professor Ravindra Rena. Rena is the professor in economics and industrialization, project leader of NW Business School, Northwest University, Mahikeng, Membatho, Republic of South Africa. He is the founding editor-in-chief, International Journal of Education, Economics and Development, and associate editor of African Journal of Technology, Innovation and Development. He has authored 10 books and 120 articles in various peer-reviewed national and international journals. Sir, we are really privileged to have you with us. Now, without wasting any time, I request Professor Rena to kindly give the deliver his keynote address. Before it, I request all the participants to kindly switch off their microphones and please feel free to write the questions in the chat box so that all the questions could be accumulated and accordingly answered by our learned speaker. Professor Rena.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, especially Professor Rachana Srivastava, the principal of the college, and Dr. Indu, Dr. Anshu Shukla, and the organizers of the Vasant Kanya Mahavidyalaya Varanasi. It is indeed a great pleasure and honor for me to be part of this particular international webinar. And so I would like to, I think Dr. Indu was asking me, sir, do you have any PowerPoint? I always believe that if you don't have a point, use the PowerPoint. So I think I do have some points, so I don't need PowerPoint. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to start. I was given about 20 minutes to half an hour in between. So within this short span of period, I would like to address some of the key challenges that we've been facing post-COVID and during the COVID situation. And this is absolutely an unprecedented situation for all of us across the globe. All the 7.8 billion people in the world have been suffering with this pandemic. So it is indeed a new challenge for the economy. It is indeed new challenge for our education system. It is also a challenge for the health system, the police, for the military, for everything that we talk about, for the agriculture, for the food sector, and so on. So uh, to look at the theme of the conference, we've been looking at the impact of the post-COVID on higher education. So I just would like to unpack what is higher education for us. And let me also take you to the global statistics. We got little more than 1.3 billion people or the students learning in different schools, colleges, universities across the globe. Now, with that in mind, imagine out of 7.8 billion people that we have in the world, and so about 1.3 billion people, they are students. Now, if you look at the in Indian statistics, we are the second largest educationally developed country one side, and also the second largest populated country in terms of the student population. Let alone the population of the world, we got about 1.3 billion people in the country, but also in terms of student population, we got quite good numbers. Now, probably more than 200 million people, they are students. And if we look at the education, higher education in particular, we got plus minus about 25,000 universities across the globe. So meaning that, if you look at the total population of the students learning in these 25,000 universities, and there are the thousands and thousands of colleges across the globe, there are plus minus about 210 million people studying in higher education. Now, the situation that we're facing today, it put us in a very hard kind of situation where we cannot move out of our home. We are all under lockdown, and so
classified as below, which are not meeting any of.
yes, so this is indeed a critical situation for every one of us, whether they are policymakers, whether they are teachers, whether they are parents, or scientists, doctors, or whoever, whatever profession that we possess, we've been absolutely facing this kind of challenge. So we are living in a fear. And we used to ask the children that, beta or beti, when you grow up, what do you want to become? Then they used to say that we want to be a scientist, we want to be a medical doctor, we want to be an engineer, an economist, and so on. But nowadays, children began to say that no, we want to be alive. So you can imagine the situation that people they think about how to live the next day, how to live in the coming 1 month, how to live in the coming 1 year. So that became an issue for all of us. So imagine the coronavirus is treating every one of us equally, even whether they are presidents or prime ministers or the kings or the princes or prince, everybody is equal. So, for instance, if you take Boris Johnson, the prime minister of UK, got affected by coronavirus, and Prince Charles of UK was also affected by the virus. So, whether they are poor or rich or whoever the case it is, the coronavirus is a threat for all the human beings in the world. Now, let us look at the education in India, for instance. In India, we got about 1,000 universities, many of them private, some of them government, state-owned universities. We got central universities, we got IITs and IIMs, Indian Institute of Management, Indian Institute of Technologies, and so on. And there are some deemed universities. So plus minus, we got about 1,000 universities. More than 50,000 colleges in the country. And so that probably, if you look at the student population, we got about 36 million students across the country studying in those institutions. Now, this post the coronavirus is put us in a situation that we are locked up. We should be remain at home. We cannot move out of the home. And so, of course, India is also following one of the strictest lockdown in the world for the past 50, 55 days. I mean, students one side and the teachers on the other side, they could not able to meet because we have lots of challenges. Now, India is, in terms of the population, we are second largest. In terms of the democracy, we're the largest democratic country. But nonetheless, in terms of the illiteracy, we are also the largest in the whole world. So we got probably more than 300 million people that are still illiterate. And poverty, unemployment is also a major challenge for us. Not that everybody has got smartphones or everybody has got the internet access. There are students living in remote rural areas where they do not have even electricity. So, given this scenario, how we take this further into a new direction or new path, that is a kind of situation that we need to think about. Now, there are even cities, we have so many metropolitan cities, we have smaller cities and major cities and so on. We do have load shedding. We have probably restricted power supply systems. Now, if the power is probably not sufficient for our needs, then how are we going to use this particular internet access? And how are we going to meet together? But thanks to the technology and thanks to these platforms where we are in today, that at least wherever you are, we all get connected with this particular move. We got plus minus about 250 participants across the country, probably across the globe. And I'm about 10,000 kilometers far away from you. But still, I can able to see you, or you can able to hear me. So that is the wonderful thing that we need to thank the technology. We need to thank the people who invented this technology. Now, the challenge is that within the teaching environment, teaching and learning environment, teacher and the student, we always should be connected with each other. We should learn from each other. It's not only we always think that a student only learns from the teacher, but in reality, a teacher also can learn from the student. Maybe with their behaviors, with their attitudes, with the way they approach the particular teacher. So meaning that we always learn from each other. So there is nobody greater, there is nobody inferior. We learn something from each other. Now, life is putting us in a situation where life never stops teaching us. We always learn every day, every hour. So therefore, we always should learn. We should be students throughout our life. It is not that we completed our masters or PhDs and then we are done with the studies. Nothing like that. So we are all students in this life journey, and because life keeps on teaching us new things on every single day, so we learn. And so with that note, ladies and gentlemen, I just would like to shed a light that in Indian scenario, we got more than 27 or 29 states. Probably when I left the country 23 years ago, the number of states were 27. Probably there are some new states, I guess, or 29 states, if I still remember correctly, and about six or so union territories. Now, within this, we got the premier institutions such as the IITs and IIMs, which we see they are the eyes of India, where the country or even the world is depending upon the technocrats or the intellectuals that are being produced from those institutions. Now, the challenge remains the same. Whether it is IITs and IIMs, they get probably more than 20 times what the other normal educational institutions they get in terms of budget allocation from the government. But nonetheless, they also feeling the same shock waves. They're also sitting with the same problem what we are facing. So they cannot come up with any kind of innovative technologies or where we connect our students, where we can bring them on board, that we can still teach them, and we can also keep the learning process continue. So those are the challenges that we have. And we have central universities, we have thousands of colleges, as I mentioned to you. The key pressing situation and the challenge that we are facing today is that we do not have enough resources. India is still a developing country. India is still having probably about less than $2,000 per capita income. So with that limited resources, providing the online resources such as this is not easy task. So therefore, the learning will become pretty difficult. Uh, Even in the coming few days or months and years, this would become a major challenge for everyone. We love our students because we want them to grow big. We want them to be good citizens of our country. We want them to contribute something for their family, for their state, for their community, for the country in general, or for the world in general. So, but unfortunately, because this situation is putting us that we cannot trust our students, so that we cannot get close to our students. In a learning environment, we must always remember that when the student and teacher, it's not an isolated process, it is a combination process. So it is a teamwork. We always work together hand in hand so that the quality of education, the knowledge that we disseminate, the wisdom that we also share will be, will flourish in a better way. But that is going to be a major threat for us in the coming days, because we cannot trust our students, we cannot trust our colleagues, we cannot trust our own probably superiors or maybe our seniors. So this is the kind of scenario we're going to live in, and but probably that may not be forever, but it's only at least for some more time we will live with this. So that is why looking into these kind of pandemic, the pandemic is putting every one of us that we cannot trust each other. We cannot, if we do not trust each other in the learning environment, you can't learn from each other also. So whatever you're learning, you learn only probably partially or maybe some percentage of what you wanted to learn from that. But you cannot learn in a normal scenario where we have a classroom set up, where all the students they sit together, the lecturer explains, and lecturer share the knowledge, give the assignments. That will not be the same anymore. So that is why, ladies and gentlemen, we will we will definitely have the tough days, and but we will come overcome those tough days. Probably, we hope that maybe in the coming few months' time, by September or by next year, we may get some vaccine and we may get rid of this problem. Remember that we have a Spanish flu which killed more than 50 million people probably about 100 years ago or so. So the number of deaths that we see today with the corona is almost about little more than 300,000 officially, according to the official statistics. and we got about 4.5 million people got affected across the globe. Now, looking into this current situation, looking into when you compare with that of the Spanish flu, which killed almost 50 million people, so this is not a major threat for our humanity. Of course, it has got positives, it has got negatives. People are happy because they can stay at home, they can work from home, but ladies and gentlemen, it's not the same. I mean, when you work sometimes from home, you work more than what you do in your office during the normal office hours. Sometimes, so it all there are plus, there are minuses. So we cannot compare with the normal working environment because we always get distracted by our family, by our children, by so many other things. Will be get distracted. So therefore, the work focus, the spirit that we have is not the same anymore. Even though some people they enjoy working from home because they don't need to get up early in the morning, drive their vehicles, stuck in the traffic, and then go to the office late or in time. So they don't need to have those kind of problems anymore. But nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, this learning process is absolutely under a big threat. So we need to think. We are the educators. We need to think. We need to. We all know that we've been using the Google. Probably we use the MS Teams. We use the Zoom. We use other platforms. There are plenty of other platforms that we've been using to teach our students, to reach our students. But the effective way to communicate with our students when you stay together, when you see each other face to face, that is the best way of teaching and learning. But we don't have that luxury anymore. We have to deal with these things. We have to manage with what we are doing today. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, I know that there are students across the country. There are also lecturers, professors across the country taking part in this seminar. Without taking much time, I just would like to conclude by saying one thing that we have 3Ds. We are fond of watching 3D pictures. So I just would like to mention something about 3D. The first D is your desire. No matter whatever desire that you guys have, it doesn't make any sense. Some of you want to become a president of the country. Some of you become prime minister of the country. Some of you became probably a scientist or probably a director general or whatever the position that you want to become IAS or IPS officers. So mere desire doesn't make you or take you anywhere. But the decision, the second D is decision. If you decide to do something in your life, whether you are an IAS officer, whether you want to be a technocrat, whether you want to be an engineer or doctor, whatever the case, or the politician, then the decision will move you to the next level. So that will make you something. And the final D is determination. If you are determined to do something for yourself, for your countrymen, and for this world, you can always do something. So, ladies and gentlemen, we always remember that where there is a will, there is a way. So, with this note, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to conclude my presentation. And I thank you very much for the organizers for giving me this opportunity. And I would be happy to interact with you to say something more about South African side, to something more about whatever questions that you would like to ask. So I'm happy to engage with you. Thank you, Varanda.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. So uh, we have two or three questions from the participant, and today I'm like the Sarthi. So I'll ask the questions on behalf of all the participants. One question is there that uh, with online classes running seamlessly during lockdown restrictions, can school teachers or college teachers afford to sit back and relax? So it's very difficult for them because they are uh, going to utilize the online trainings and webinars and all. So what would you suggest for them?
Well, indeed, it is indeed a critical question or a difficult question. You see, the current situation of the COVID-19 disturbed our calendar, academic calendar, and disturbed our semesters, disturbed the way we plan our academic programs. Now, for India, for example, at least this is the for many of educational institutions across the country, it's a summer period, so that some people they can take this as a leverage, as an advantage, that they can stay at home and they can use this as a summer vacation. But what is going to happen from June, July onwards? Now, the students, particularly in the rural areas of the country, at the school level, at the primary school level, at the high school level, they must do something. They cannot. Now we are having the keywords that we've been listening to. We've been always reading about social distancing, about wearing the mask, about using the sanitizers, about washing the hands 20 seconds, and washing the hands as many times as possible. I mean, quarantine. So these becomes a key terms for every one of us in our day-to-day life. Now, if we wanted to apply this for the school environment in the coming few days or few weeks time, how are we going to manage? I mean, you cannot maintain the classrooms of India, they are overcrowded. You don't ever have a classroom where there are only 10 learners are there or 20 learners are there. You got a classroom, they got probably 60 or 100 students. Now, how do you maintain the social distancing? So that will become a key challenge. But just to answer your question, Dr. Anshu, that I think it's not fair, but because the government or the policymakers within the education department, they cannot come up with any kind of specific plan because of the existing challenges that we have. Now, the student doesn't have a student who is living in a Mumbai location area or the slum areas. They don't have the electricity. Then how do you expect them to use the smartphones or the laptops and listen to the classes, listen to the teachers? That is the major challenge. So we need to find out an appropriate methods and mechanisms to reach those kind of students. In South Africa, we also have the similar challenges. Now, for example, I've been teaching for the past 1.5 months, although we are on the lockdown period, but we are teaching online by using Zoom, by using Microsoft Teams and other platforms. We are teaching our students because our students are basically MBA students, PhD students. They're all grown up. They're all working people. They got the means to have the internet access. At least, ladies and gentlemen, you must remember that the internet is relatively cheaper in India than South Africa or in many part of the world. If you pay about, let's say, 500 rupees per month, you can get, or maybe 500 rupees for 2 months or 3 months, you can get at least 1 GB data or 1.5 GB data on daily basis. But in South Africa, it is not the case. So we do have the similar challenges. There are some of students, they do stay far away remote areas. They cannot able to reach, they cannot able to take part in this learning process by this, e-learning. So I think, Dr. Anshu, whether I could I able to give a specific answer to your question, but that is basically the things are going to be changing very soon, and they will come up with some kind of radical reforms how best to tackle this situation, so that it is not fair that when you college teachers are teaching one side, whereas the school teachers are relaxing, it's not fair enough. Everybody
Yeah.
should work. Everybody should try to give their best to the students. Thank you.
Yes, so we all agree with you, and we know that we have to create new protocols for online curriculum transaction and monitor teachers' performance and everything. One more question is there that somebody has written. It's not a lecture classroom online. It's an active learning classroom online. So, are there any felt or expressed concern regarding the effectiveness of online classes?
Well, I think I'm sure to address that,
Yeah.
I prefer as an individual, probably you may not agree with me. I prefer to have a student and a teacher relationship should be eye to eye contact. Now, for example, if I see you or if I see the participants eye to eye, I don't think that will be more effective than what we see normally in a classroom environment. So, therefore, when we have that face-to-face learning, that would be more impactful. That will have more influence than the what we have in this online teaching platform. So that is why no matter whatever online technologies that we've been bringing in, but the face-to-face learning nobody can compete with.
Yeah,
Thank
definitely,
you.
sir. And here we are facing problems with more in the literature classes, like Hindi literature, Sanskrit literature, where direct teaching is more influential, more impactful than the online teaching classes. So that's why the problem is really there, and teachers are facing like this only. Okay, thank you so much, sir. Yeah, somebody has asked what is the paradigm model of learning and teaching. Maybe uh, he would be like from B.Ed faculty or something like that. So he has asked that what is the paradigm model of learning and teaching in this situation?
Well, I think we always try to think innovatively and in a sense that now we never think of having this webinar series. So it is a kind of method that we identified to reach to the larger number of students and the communities. Now, so this is one platform that we identified. We need to think, when time pass by, we can try to think, we can try to bring in so many other kind of avenues where we can interact with. Now there is we have a site called eFundi. Probably this word eFundi would be relatively new to you guys. In South Africa, in our university, we use eFundi system. So eFundi, because the data is expensive and data is sometimes internet is also kind of a problem because there are some fluctuations in the internet access. Therefore, there will be lots of transmission challenges. There would be connectivity challenges. So what the government decided is that all the service providers like MTN we got Odacom, we got Celsi, we got Virgin, and so on. So they were being instructed by the government of South Africa that are the universities, then this eFundi platform must be free. They should not have any kind of internet connectivity. Without internet, you can use the eFundi. So with the eFundi, a teacher can teach the students, and a student can take part in the discussion with the classroom, with the blackboard, with the chat box, with whatever that means. So probably government of India or MHRD must think that we need to create that kind of platforms where the student, without having any internet, they can still interact online or offline, whatever the case, they can still interact. So probably that could be a kind of a solution to some extent, if not 100%. I hope I addressed that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
One, if you have time, sir, one more question is
Yes,
there.
sure, sure. Definitely, no
Yeah,
problem.
yeah. One person is asking the learners being digital natives view online classes as edutainment than education. How to address it?
Well, you see, actually, in the learning process, normally, when you see uh, the impact of what you see, what you learn is probably 50%. But when you do, it has got more impact because you are doing and you're learning. It has got more impact than what you do normally. But if you just teach, like you are mentioning about Hindi literature or Sanskrit literature or English literature, with theoretical classes, when we keep on teaching, how much percentage of students they can be attentive, they can be receptive, they can try to absorb the knowledge that we are disseminating. If you look at the international research that has been done by different countries across the globe, the percentage that we can able to disseminate is probably between 10 to 15% only. But if you could able to show them something by the videos or by whatever the you know uh, maybe pictures and things like that, that would at least they can remember it better. Maybe 30 to 40% they can remember. But when they do it, when they indulge themselves in the learning process, they can continue practically. They are also taking part in that practicals, so that will be remembered maybe 70% or so. This is how these are the things that we need to probably apply to our learning process so that the education will become more effective. I hope Anshu, maybe if I do not address that question directly, but indirectly I try to address it.
So just related to your answer, I just wanted to mention that subjects like mine is home science or psychology, where the students are not getting the proper thing. We are trying to give them practical experience through the things like videos and lectures, but in hand experience is really missing, and we have to look for that how we address them.
Yeah, and the current circumstances that also is pretty difficult because we don't have a control. We ask the student, we give them some online assessment, probably online assignments, and we do not know who is doing, whether the parent is doing for the child, whether brother or sister is doing for the child, or who are doing actually. We don't have a control because they have the access to that particular assignment. They can try to download, they can interact, and they try to submit to you as if they are the one who is submitting. So we all know that students they will do such things. So therefore, we lose the control. Now, how do you test the ability of a student? That will become definitely a major challenge for the teachers. And the controlling mechanisms of the monitoring and evaluation will definitely become a bigger challenge for lecturers and professors. That I'm sure probably they address that, or probably you wanted to ask something in a different angle.
Thank you so much, sir. Uh, Now I request Dr. Indo Upadhyay for vote of thanks.
So higher education is probably a force that brings about a social mobility towards either development, since we are the students of economics. So it either moves a person towards development or against development. And you very rightly said, sir, that India is experiencing a dual nature of education system, where they have highly developed IITs which has a world repute, and on the other hand there are many schools and higher educational institutions which lack basic infrastructure. So the same policy for both the institution might not work. Sir, we are highly impressed with your lecture. Thank you, sir, for your mind provoking lecture. Now we
Thank
are
you very
moving
much.
toward Namaskar, sir. Now we are moving towards our second speaker. Our second speaker is Dr. Prasenjit Biswas. Has he joined? Chandrakant, has Dr. Prasenjit Biswas joined?
No, ma'am.
He has not joined. See to it why he is not able to join. So higher education depends on the two pillars. It is on the primary education and the secondary education. No doubt our primary education, in the case of gross enrollment ratio, we have achieved the 100% limit. But the quality of primary education is degrading day by day. The students, according to the annual statistical survey, it was found that the class 5 students were not able to perform double digit multiplication. And in this case, are they in the position to be imparted online education? The second point which I would like to mention is that the secondary education is equally in a deplorable position. Many of the secondary schools do not have computer labs. So in this situation, will the child be is the child in the position to adapt with this online changes? And all the stuff that is being given by the primary and the secondary education is taken by higher education. Is the higher education in the position in every part of India to impart education through online? It poses a great question mark on our higher education. So for at least 1 year, we have to face this challenge, and we have to make some basic infrastructural changes in order to cope up with these challenges. Uh, I invite somebody else. If somebody, Anshu, you want to speak something?
And ma'am, you are rightly said, because our traditional classes are teacher driven, and all the decisions regarding what, when, how, uh, and how much are taken by the teacher. In an online class, the teacher can enhance learners. Uh, I can say learners' motivation, interest, and involvement by allowing them to choose how to learn. So, our students in the present scenario are digital natives. So, they have more knowledge uh, beyond our teachers, and the choice of activities which we are adapting in online classes are also very important. Uh, we are facing too many problems, like how to get assignments, how to deal with practical classes and everything. And I know by the time, slowly and slowly, we'll get out of that, and we'll move ahead towards a better online education. So I think it is a future focused, and it inculcates ideas about what a learner or teacher can do differently with the assignments or teaching on hand. So, Indudi, yeah.
Ha. That is true. The Indian position is not Indian higher education system is not in the position to adapt with this change. I think that some infrastructural changes needs to be made. And in case of primary education, where the child is directly connected to the teacher, they're depriving the child away from the teacher. And one question in higher education that should be taken into consideration is the mentoring part. We do a mentoring part in this situation when the students are highly stressed. We need there How can we mentor them with this online education? That's a great question mark. So we have to bring about a new education model. Perhaps the national education policy should think about and bring about the changes that could cope up with these kinds of pandemics. Since this is something new, it did not happen in so many years. It has happened, and it is an unprecedented change. That is true, but still, we in the national education policy, we should consider some changes that could be made for these changes, for these kinds of epidemics as well. Yes, Anshu, would you like to say something?
Indu, I think you can ask Dr. Ramesh Chandra Sharma to speak now. If Dr. Prasidh Biswas is not available. If
He has not joined. Ramesh Chandra Sharma has not joined, ma'am.
he has
He
not
will be
joined,
speaking at 2. He will be speaking at 2. What should we do? Kalpita Pandey,
yeah,
shall we?
you can, you can do that so that we
Mhm.
save time. Otherwise, things will linger on because
Okay.
Professor Kalpata Pandey's video can be